and here you go. You can click on it and you can choose that specific color which you want. Here is our date picker. We can click on it and we can choose any specific date. So see, when I will click on the submit, it will do a validation over here. It will ask me to include an @ so that it should be a valid email. So this is a submit button actually, but in form of an image. So an input type image adds a submit button over there. So it also shows a kind of date time picker, but I won't say it is a date time picker because it is just an year month picker. You can select a certain year from it. So right now you can see it's showing 2022. You can select any specific month from it and you can also move back. So this is a number type, and when you will hover your mouse, you can get this up and down arrow which can increase the value over here and decrease the value over here. Hey guys, welcome to HTML input types part 2. In part 1 we have seen all the different types of input type values theoretically, and we have also seen some of those types practically. Now the remaining type of types we are going to discuss here. So this is going to be the part 2 of the same video. If you have not covered the part 1 yet, I recommend you to go to that specific video first, which you can see right now by clicking on the notification icon at the top right corner. And those who have already covered it, let's quickly proceed to the practical session and see the remaining types of input types. And guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you want to stay updated with proper Salesforce tutorials and want to watch more tutorials, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. Also, if you have thoughts or question, drop it in the comments. I would love to hear from you and promise I will read every single one. Thank you so much guys, and now you can proceed with the video. The next type that we are going to see over here is actually a button again. Now this is quite different from the submit and reset button. This is just a simple button. So a submit button submits the data, a reset button resets the data, but a normal button will not do anything until we specify it to do it. So basically when we will create forms in our JavaScript section of this course, we won't create a submit button because submit button is useful when you want it to submit to a server, and here we will actually submit the data to a JavaScript code. So we will always use a type as button. So here is the button over there. Now if I specify any value to it, let's suppose submit itself, that value will be shown on the button itself. Now you can provide any ID to it if you want, because basically we don't provide any label to a button. That's why we don't use any ID with it, but it's good to have an ID. So let me give an ID to it as submit button, and in case if you want to provide any name, you are good to go with it. But this is not a submit button, a normal submit button. So just to remove the confusion, I'm giving it an ID as button itself, and I will call it as click. So this is a click button. It's not a submit button. It will do whatsoever I will tell it to do with help of JavaScript code. Now the next two types that we are going to see is actually color and date. So let me add some space over here and let me add a color picker. So to add a color picker, the type that we use is color, and here you go. You can click on it and you can choose that specific color which you want. Now definitely it should have a label with it. So let me add a label for it, and secondly, because we are using a label, we should have an ID for it as well. So the ID I'm going to provide over here is color itself. So this label will refer to color and the ID of it is color itself. The next input type that we are going to see is actually a date picker. So let me just copy paste it. I'm going to rename it as date. So I will write choose date. I will change the ID and the type, everything to date. If you want to change the ID, you can do that, but make sure the type should be date only. Here is our date picker. We can click on it and we can choose any specific date. So these are few more input types, and now let's see some more input types like email, image, file, hidden, month and number. So let me add one more file over here, as input types 3.html. I will just copy paste the code. Now the first input type that we are going to see is email. So as you can see, the input type I have mentioned as email. The label is email address. The ID of the input type is my email, and that is what I have provided the value of the for attribute of the label. So let me show you the output. Let's go back, click on refresh and open input types 3. So basically it seems like the normal text box, okay, but it do a certain kind of validation with it. And to understand that, let me add a submit button. So see, when I will click on the submit, it will do a validation over here. It will ask me to include an @ so that it should be a valid email. So the basic difference between an email type and a text type is, on the click of the submit button, there is a certain kind of validation which is performed to make sure that this specific text field or this specific input type should accept a valid email. Now this certain validation is actually also shown as a tooltip. So if I will just select the content and hover over my mouse over there, it will show me that value. Please include an @ in the email address. But this certain validation varies from browser to browser. Basically Google Chrome performed that thing, and that's why everything that I'm making, I'm testing it on Google Chrome. But it is always advised to do the custom validation on JavaScript for these fields. The next input type that I'm going to show is an image. So let me add that. Let me change it to image. Here you go. So this certain image type is actually used as a submit button. You can provide a submit icon to it. Now how we are going to provide an image icon to this specific image? So let me just remove the label for now, and let me add an images folder over here. Let me quickly add a submit icon. So as you can see in the images folder, I have this submit image which is in front of you, and I want this image to appear over here in place of this submit text. So to this input type image, let me remove the ID. We don't need an ID for it. So to this input type image, I will add an src, and I will provide the source of this image, which is in the images folder. So images/submit.jpg. And you can see it is coming as a very big image over here. So let me quickly add height and width to it. So let me give a height of, let's suppose 40 pixels and a width of 40 pixels. Okay, it's quite small. So let's make it, suppose 60 pixels. Yeah, that's good. So this is a submit button actually, but in form of an image. So an input type image adds a submit button over there. If you won't provide any source to it, definitely it will show the submit text. And if you are providing a source to it, it is always advised to add the height or width of that specific section. Otherwise it will take the default size of the image itself. Now as we already have a submit button, so let me remove this one, because this certain image will do the same thing. So if I will click on submit, okay, let me just add something and let me click on submit. So you can see it is performing that validation. So you can use an image for submit instead of the submit button itself with the input type image. Now the next input type that we are going to see is file. So let me add that over here. Now you can see I have entered a label, I have entered another input type. Okay, let me change the type of it. That should be file. I have given an ID to it as my file, and that is actually the value of the for attribute of the label, and I have written choose file as well. So let me just save it, and now you can see it is showing choose file. So it's up to you. If you don't want to show the label, you can remove it and you can simply go with the choose file button. It will also show the file name. So let me select a file over here. So I have actually selected the same submit JPG file which is there in the images, and you can see the file name as well. So if no file is selected, definitely it will show that no file is selected. Otherwise it will show the file name which you have selected. On clicking of choose file, a dialog box will open from where you can select a certain file. Now the next input type that we are going to see, actually we are not able to see that input type is hidden, and the type name is hidden as well. Now as soon as I added that input type, you can see this space is just because of this BR. So if I will remove this BR, you won't get this extra space. Now this input type hidden is actually not shown to us, but it is very handy if you want to have some value stored in any variable. So you can treat it as a variable for input, which you can use for any kind of calculation or something. So basically on the screen, this won't be visible, but let me add some value to it. Let's suppose 100. Let me save this and let me open, or I should say, let me try to view page source. So if I will go to page source, you can see I can find this input type hidden with a value 100. So basically whatsoever you add to the hidden, it won't appear on the page, but anyone can see the value of it by seeing the page source. So basically it is advised not to keep confidential information to this hidden type. So any general information that you want to use in your page, you can keep it in a hidden type of field. You will understand more use of hidden when you will deal with JavaScript part, but till then you can treat it as a field which is not shown on the page, but that can hold some certain value which can be utilized later. The next two types that we are going to see are month and number. So let me show you them one by one. So let me show you the month first. Let me give the ID as my month and let me give the type as month. So it also shows a kind of date time picker, but I won't say it is a date time picker because it is just an year month picker. You can select a certain year from it. So right now you can see it's showing 2022. You can select any specific month from it, and you can also move back or scroll back to go to any specific year. So it is basically used if you want to select any month and any specific year. Definitely it's good to have a label with it. So let me just copy this label. I will provide the same ID to the for, and I will provide over here as choose month and year, or you can name it as choose month of a year. The last input type that we are going to see in this video is actually a number input type. So let me just create another one. Let me name it as my number as the ID. Let me name it as enter age, and the type will be number. So this is a number type, and when you will hover your mouse, you can get this up and down arrow which can increase the value over here and decrease the value over here. So you can select values in form of numbers. So these are the various input types that we basically use in our form. With that, it marks the end of this video. See you soon in the next video. Till then, thank you and take care.